Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Into the Pit. I am very pleased to have Mr. Tony Cadwell here with me. He is a filmmaker, I guess documentarian, into the paranormal. I'm assuming you're an investigator as well.
Actually, not.
No, okay.
Uh,
Well,
I'm I'm
go
more
ahead.
I'm more into the horror side of things. I kind of tripped into the paranormal um, by chance.
Well, you're more than welcome into this family. I'll tell you that. If you come back to Texas, we'll take you on an investigation. Uh, we're gonna kind of get to know Tony a little bit and what kind of person that he is. So you would take the time to go check out his films. He just recently had a documentary with Kane Hodder, correct?
Correct.
And I think you should check this out. We met through a mutual friend, and this is like a family, this whole paranormal world to me. So uh if these guys say you're a good guy, I'm gonna believe it. So tell us a little bit about you.
I'm originally from North Carolina. I live in the eastern part of North Carolina, outside of the Greensboro area, kind of rural. Um, my background is I spent about 9 years, 7 months in the Marine Corps. Sometimes I round that up to 10, and I'm like, no, I can't give myself credit.
Well, thank you for your service, by the way.
I appreciate that. Um, you mentioned I got out of the Corps, and I kind of got into filmmaking as a hobby. I was sold real estate, and I looked up and I did a horror film with a studio that was based on the clown sightings back in 2016.
Okay.
And it was kind of like Blair Witch with clowns. And when you involve a studio, the filmmaker process just goes, I mean, the Marine Corps process is keep it simple, sweetheart. Then the Marines, they say stupid, but I'll be nice and say sweetheart. In the studio, it took them 5 years to release it. And I did other direct to DVD things, and then the market changes and DVDs aren't exactly where they used to be,
Right.
which is a drag, because when you have a movie that's streaming online, it might not be there tomorrow. I mean, someone could call for it to be pulled offline, or some people could cause it. So the only way to really own a movie, in my opinion, is to have the DVD. And I not only say that as a filmmaker, but just as a film lover.
Mm-hmm.
And I got into the paranormal just by chance. I'd always been interested in it, but I'm a preacher's kid, and all that stuff was just off limits. But I was always intrigued by it. I'd always watch anything I could get my hands on it, which was kind of rough because that was pre-internet days. So
Right.
somebody might have a VHS tape of a Ed and Lorraine Warren interview, and you're like, holy moly. It blows your mind. You hear about the Amityville house, and a lot of the paranormal stories have became very good horror franchises.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that Hollywood takes some creative liberties with those. So, but it's always, even behind every movie, there's a little bit of truth. And to me, that truth is of that paranormal is really scary.
Right.
So I was sitting around here on the couch, just flipping around about 3.5 years ago, watching TV. And I had never watched a paranormal TV show. Like, I looked at Ghost Hunters and I was like, oh, it's interesting. And then I saw like the first season of Ghost Adventures. And I know different people like Ghost Adventures, but when I watch something, you got to think I'm looking at, the camera angles, what are they doing? How many people are there? How long does it take them to film this sort of thing? The production value. And then I'm like, this seems like it would be fun to film.
Mm-hmm.
So I started watching different ones. And I noticed like how, as it became more popular, things have changed on TV.
Mhm.
and which is sad. But I got my hands on a copy of the original Ghost Adventures documentary where Zach and them went to the Goldfield Hotel.
Mhm.
And I was like, do I want to do something like this? So I told a few people, and they were like, a few people I knew in production, and they're like, you ought to do something more horror based. So I was like, why don't I take somebody in the horror community on an investigation? But I don't know any paranormal investigators. I've never been on a case. I don't know anything about this. So I started researching it. And the first thing I did was I did what a lot of people probably would be like, I can't believe this guy did this. But I bought a lot of the equipment that I saw on Ghost Adventures. I contacted Bill Chappell,
Mhm.
got an Ovilus, SLS cameras, the spirit boxes, Gary's mail meter, different things like that. But I just didn't rush out and go nowhere. I was fortunate enough. I was at a horror event, and I had told a producer friend of mine, I'm like, I think I might do one of these paranormal investigation things. And they're like, whatever. I was like, but I don't know if I can. I was like, I don't know any investigators. So I met two wonderful investigators from North Carolina that had been doing it for about 15 years. And I was like, hey, do y'all mind like showing me how this stuff works? And
Mhm.
they had done some home cases. They had done some commercial properties. And I was like, this is very intriguing, because as a filmmaker, to catch something paranormal on film, or to film someone going through and experiencing the paranormal, is pretty amazing. And when I say to capture that, I'm not talking about how they do it now when you turn on the Discovery Channel. I'm not talking about they reenact everything.
I hate those.
I don't, that's not my style. I'm more of a Blair Witch type of guy,
Yeah.
POV type of person. So I had two or three people that I knew in the industry that had actually worked on some very big shows. Some of these specials that are pretty well known that I'm not going to throw their names out. And they called me, and we talked, and there's like, these things are a pain in the ass to film. And I was like, what? And they're like, well, one, you're there forever. And I'm like, what do you mean you're there forever? I was like, the show's like 45 minutes I was like, why are you there forever? And they're like, well, you got to kind of stay, and then you got to make sure everybody wears the same clothes, because you're cutting it and editing it where it looks like it's one night, but they were really there like 2 weeks. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I felt like a kid being told there was no Santa Claus, because when I watched it on TV, I just thought they went there
Right.
and they filmed it. And I was just like, well, I don't know. And then I talked to White Glove Productions, who I had done some work with in the past, and they had want me to do a horror movie. And they said, we love the idea, but what are you actually going to do? And I was like, I want to take a horror icon ghost hunting, because I felt like they would be conditioned to not just, at every little thing.
Right.
But I wanted to take someone that I felt had some investigative experience. And I didn't want to do a home investigation, because I really felt like I have mixed feelings about the how ethical it is to film a home investigation of people that are in trouble and need help.
Mhm.
I wanted to do something that had cinematic value, that had a good story to it, but I didn't have a location. So they were like, if you get the person, you get a location, let me know. So I started looking at the people I knew. I started looking at people in the paranormal community. And it's funny you say it's welcoming, because some people are like, no, no.
Yeah, there are some out there. It for some reason the paranormal community, there gets to be a lot of drama with some folks, but then you've got others that are,
Very
all
well.
about family and sticking together. We should help each other. There's
Exactly.
too many people that are like they're jealous They're afraid somebody's going to get more attention than them. You get some of those that are like, oh, I know everything there is to know. And then you've got those who are really professional that say, I can always learn more. So you got a mixed group, but for the most part, most of them are very, welcoming and like I said, family oriented.
Yeah. After I did my research, about 6, 7 months transpired, I said, I think I need to go somewhere. If Zach is at the Goldfield Motel and he's at the Clown Motel and he's in Tonopah at the Mizpah Hotel and he's having his ghost adventures in his first season,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, why can't I just go there and have a ghost adventure?
Right.
So I got on a plane, spent 3 days at the Clown Motel. That place is spooky as crap. The first time I turned on the Ovilus, I'm sitting in the lobby of the Clown Motel. And I was like, is there anything in here that wants to talk to me? And that Ovilus says no.
It's amazing when you get a reaction like that.
I'm just like, what in the world have I gotten myself into? And I was amazed that people were so, like, I went to the Mizpah Hotel and I wasn't staying there. I wasn't paying them any money. I wasn't scouting for a filming location. I just asked the lady, hey, I heard this place is haunted. I saw it on TV. Is the basement really haunted? She's like, yeah, let me take you down there. I'll show you. She took me down there, locked me in the vault. She's like, oh, this would be a cool experience for you. This is the vault where the miners robbed the place and were found dead. Let me lock you in here. And why don't you snap some pictures? You'll probably get some stuff. My wife, she got an orb. It was our very first, and I was videoing it. So we knew it wasn't dust. And I asked the lady, I was like, can I get a handful, put this in the cup, the dirt on the floor, because I wanted to look at the consistency of the dirt to see if it was like maybe some dust and stuff in there.
Right.
But we actually, because I'm looking at it from, my background is Marines. I was an intelligence analyst. So I'm looking at it from an analytical point of view. Could it be this? Could it be that? Could it be this? Could it be that? And I was like, And then we're sitting there in this hallway at the Mizpah Hotel. And she's like, yeah, the ghosts typically come by and swing the chandeliers, make them move. And then I got it on camera. The chandeliers are moving. So I'm like looking for the vents. And there's no vents in that hallway because it's a 1800s hotel that predates us having central heating and air. So right. when I came back, I'm like, I went to Goldfield, and oh my goodness, that town's amazing. We were supposed to go into Goldfield Hotel, and the owner fell and broke his hip. He's now passed away. It was red. And his son was like, no, I'm not going to let you guys in. They had agreed to let us in, but then they changed his mind, which I understand. His father was in the hospital. He didn't want to deal with some people. So, no hard feelings about that. But they did let us go and stand on the porch and look inside. And it was the weirdest feeling. And I was like, when I got back, I was like, I got to do something. But I'm like, the only way I can film something is if you find a place that's actually haunted. And we were lucky. A few months later, we got a call about this place in the mountains of North Carolina called Grand Old Lady Hotel. It's in Balsam, North Carolina, and never heard of it. I've seen a couple of people talk about it, but never been there. I was like, asked the owner about it, and she's like, yeah, come on up here. We got a haunting. Come on. And I didn't tell her I was a filmmaker. I was just like, hey, I was just looking to stay at a haunted place. Went up there, and that place is haunted.
Oh man. See, you need to come back to Texas and let's collaborate, because I know some really good spots that I know you'll get some kind of evidence, Bonham, Texas. And I'm gonna tell you what, this was one of the most unique ones that I think I'd been to in a long, long time. This house it was bought by a doctor. His name was Risser, and he converted the house into a hospital. So he had 8 hospital rooms in this house. Now, it still looks like a house, mind you. And anyway, we were there with Mustafa and Daryl from Ghost Hunters, and well, it was an event, like a little event, you know. It had a bunch of people there, but my wife, who has psychic abilities, she has this connection with her spirit guides, that she uses the dowsing rods to communicate, and so she's using them, and they're working for her. I mean, it's amazing watching her go to action with this. And then Mustafa, who'd never used them before, he says, "Man, I want to try them." So he started doing it and started asking questions. When that thing started moving on its own, he's like, "Nope, you can have it back." But then we got a digital recorder, and we were doing these little bursts, and we'd ask a question, and usually we'd let that run about 2 minutes, and then we'd shut it off and we'd check what we got. Man, I got more EVPs in that place than I think I've had doing 10 investigations. This place is amazing. Mineral Wells is another good place to go to, because they got a hospital there that is extremely haunted. There's something evil in that place. And then there's a military base not too far from there. They tore down the hospital part of it, but I think the barracks and a few other rooms are still there. And I heard the activities picked up there as well. But I mean, there's so many places here. I'd love for you to come, and then, man, I'd probably get some of the other investigators to come in, and you know, if you want to film something, I mean, it's up to you, or
Yeah.
even you just want to check it out.
I don't, to me, and like I meet people, I meet investigators all the time, and like they go out and investigate, and I'm like, I get it, but I'm like, man, you guys are brave, because to me,
I don't know if it's brave or stupid. I guess I'm too dumb to run away. I'm more curious than anything else.
it's stressful. I mean,
It can be, yeah.
it it's like I'm sitting there sometimes, and you know, I was sitting there. We were at a location filming, and I was filming for practice. And I'd hired a camera guy, and he's like, he shows up, and he's like, I'm not going in this place. It was structurally sound, but it was spooky.
Mhm.
He's like, I'm not. So I'm like, okay, so I'm going to film the investigation anyway. Just I'll be the camera guy. So I'm trying to be cool. I've got the camera going, and you know, I'm trying to stay behind the camera.
Mhm.
Something grabbed a hold of my arm, like just like a person.
Oh, I believe it.
I'm like, you guys that do this all the time, that's not part of a movie that just goes out and do it to help people or do it. I mean,
Yeah.
I applaud you, because that is scarier than any horror movie I've ever seen. I mean,
Well, there's a lot of folks in the community that they just want to help people, and for some, it's just out of natural curiosity. If you get a TV show, more power to you. That's not what I got into it for. I would love to have some of this stuff documented. Not so much. I mean, it doesn't have to be a film, just so people can see what we really do. And there's authentic people out there. There's some out there. It's like a Hollywood thing. You got some gopher in the background knocking on the walls, or you know,
yeah,
talking and rattling stuff, and just to get attention. I'm sorry, but there's some locations you could be there for 2 weeks and still not get something. And then you could show up another time, and that night you'll get a whole bunch of stuff. I just don't think there's as much evidence that a lot of people are claiming. Just
yeah.
it's just for show, to keep people's attention to the TV. I appreciated Ghost Hunters because you didn't get a whole bunch of stuff, so it made it, to me, it seemed more authentic, and they were more about, hey, let's figure out why this is happening. Maybe it's something natural. So I'm skeptical myself. You'll hardly find any evidence on any of my social media because I scrutinize everything. Drives my wife up the wall because she'll swear, yes, this has really happened. I'm like, no, this could have happened, and you know, it's a back and forth kind of thing. To be there and have somebody actually film it just to say, hey, yeah, this really happened, that would be amazing.
Well, see, one of the things I quickly learned when I looked at paranormal is first off, I'm, with you being in Texas, I'm a huge Robert Rodriguez fan. Like, he's one
Yeah.
of the directors that like inspired me to want to direct. And he was always like Rebel Without a Crew. That's his book. Is like, and then I looked at it, and when I looked at the crew requirements of a typical paranormal TV show or a paranormal documentary, it's like you can't catch somebody. I look at paranormal investigating like if I was going to catch a living person that was trying to hide from me. I can't sneak up on somebody with 20 people in my crew.
Mm-hmm.
So I film extremely light. And I think that's just part of being a Robert Rodriguez fan. And it's also part of being just military background. When you go to war, you have a 4-man fire team, and that's your partners in war, and that's who you're assaulting with. So when I went in there, I went into one location practicing, and I had, your standard crew, and you could get no evidence, nothing. It was, a production assistant wanting to know if you needed coffee, somebody wanting the sound guy needing a break. It was always something. I was like, well, in my opinion, you have to look at producing a paranormal movie as a totally separate animal than producing any other type of movie.
Mm-hmm.
If not, it's not going to work. Of course, and I think that's what I did when we set out with Balsam. Is, I reached out to Kane. He had been on Ghost Adventures with Zach, and when Kane does something, they tend to portray him, more as, he was Jason,
right?
And they play to that angle. But what they don't know is Kane is very curious about the paranormal, and he has been investigated for years with Rick, who is also a stuntman and a paranormal investigator. And he investigates with R.A., who played Leatherface, but they are, intent on going out, not doing home cases, but just going out and having a paranormal experience. And he's been to Waverly. He named off all the places, and I was just like, and he's like, I've never heard of this Balsam. Where the heck is it at? And how are we going to shoot this? And we talked forever about this because his concern was authenticity. He's like,
yeah, it has to be. It has to be.
like,
Otherwise, you're ruining the whole
experience.
Exactly what we're trying to accomplish. That's why I think a lot of people are still so skeptical, because you do hear these stories about the going ons on some of the productions, and it's sad that they're bringing they're making a black eye basically of what people are really trying to do.
Yeah. So basically what we did, and I was like, either this is going to go really well or this is going to go really bad, but it's going to go. We're going to take a very small crew, take Kane to this location with the investigators. I took Maeve, Amanda, and Mark. Mark Richardson, he works in Hollywood as a prop master, but he's an investigator too, and he's a friend of Kane's. Between all of them, they had about 50, 60 years worth of experience in investigating.
Nice.
Took them, and probably one of the few directors to admit this, but I really didn't direct much. I just, hey, we're going to go to the dining room. Let's film it.
Yeah.
Hey, let's go to the kitchen. Let's film. Okay, I feel like we've been in here too long. Let's move on. I made those type of judgment calls because you just have to keep the crew going. But I never said, hey, can I get another reaction to this evidence? No, it's not
Yeah,
scripted.
yeah, I got you. I know what you're saying.
It's just run and gun. And that was the condition Kane said, because Kane said, if anyone fakes anything, I'm out. He's like, I'm quitting right then and walking out the door, and you guys just do whatever you're going to do.
I
And
don't
he's
blame
like,
him.
you can't use none of my footage if I quit. But the good thing is he had a heck of an experience, and we got some crazy evidence.
Ooh.
And I'm the type of person where I'm not going to sit here and say we got this or we got that. I'm curious to see what everybody thinks of it. Like people like yourself, like people listening to you, what could this be that we got? Because we got several things.
Mhm.
And this Balsam, it's a 112-year-old, 40,000 square foot hotel. Is built on land that used to belong to the Cherokee Indian. And when I say land that used to, I mean it's right by the Cherokee Indian Reservation.
Okay.
It's right near where the Trail of Tears went through. There was the Rutherford Trace went right through there. There's a railroad there. There's a natural spring in the back where people went there and they would drink from the spring thinking it would heal them, and then they would pretty much not get healed and die.
Yeah.
So it's a place that's I mean it's a crazy place. And then I tried to interview the locals, and this is one of the parts that we kind of failed on the production, because I never want to use anybody's footage that they're like, no, don't interview me. But I went out and talked to the locals in the town, and there's still animosity in that community between the Native Americans and the locals. Like from what I had gathered on my research is like there was Cherokee villages there that were burnt down.
Oh no.
Like there were bounties in that whole community, that whole area of North Carolina. There were bounties on Native Americans, because that was the final push to put everybody on the Cherokee reservation. So it's a hotbed area. And then the Appalachian Mountains itself, you have all kinds of things. So I was like, I don't know what I'm getting myself into going up there.
Well, you mentioned about the evidence and letting people kind of make up their own mind. That when I post stuff, even if I'm convinced that I have something, somebody else might have a good explanation for why things happen. So I won't come out and just say, oh, this is definite evidence of a ghost. When okay, let's take, for example, on ghost hunters, they kept seeing something look like it was a ghost flying around in circles in this camera view. And when they got up close, it ended up being like a piece of lint or something that was caught over the lens. But when you first look at it, you're like, oh my God, that's definite evidence. But then again, they found out it wasn't. I'm very skeptical when it comes to, oh yeah, this is definitely evidence. There's other ways of looking at it. You have to be open to that. So leave it up to the viewer. You decide. You make up your mind. If you believe this is real, it's real. If you have an explanation, please share it with me. It doesn't hurt my feelings any. I makes me work harder. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's as a filmmaker, and I think filmmaking and investigating kind of coincide a lot, because it's like you want to capture and document. When I say the paranormal fascinates me, and like especially when I went down that rabbit hole, so to speak, of looking at the shows and then getting into the production, and then learning that I'm not going to say the shows are fake, but that Hollywood has its hand in it, because it's like it doesn't appear to be too many producers or directors that specialize in the paranormal. It's a lot of people, they'll go do Dr. Pimple Popper one week and then they'll do a paranormal show the next. And, producing might be producing, but I think producing and paranormal has different requirements.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest things that I learned. And working with Kane, I've already had some people are like, oh, he's an actor. But people that know Kane, he has a lot of integrity, and he's supposed to appear at the Vegas Paracon in December. He does appearances at Paracons. He's known as being very skeptical and not easily shaken.
Mm-hmm.
And Kane's never going to say he's scared. But at the end of Balsam, I put it in the trailer. It's like he admits that he was uncomfortable, and that was huge. You take Jason Voorhees and make him uncomfortable during a paranormal investigation. That's
People need to stop and think. Just because they're an actor doesn't mean that they're not a human being.
correct.
Why can't they go out and investigate? And you take them. Okay, if it's a Hollywood production, I understand the little bit of skepticism there, but just like you said about Kane, he's an authentic person, and he wants to do this too. It shouldn't exclude you just because you're an actor.
Yeah. And I've been approached by actors that, a lot of actors won't work. So, you can hire an actor and they'll come out and, a lot of actors will do whatever. But then you have a lot of actors that are like Kane that they won't just do whatever. Like Kane's never done a whole paranormal movie before. This is the first one. I had another actor contact me out of the blue that knew Kane and was like, hey, I want to do a project with you because, and shared a deeply personal paranormal experience they had. And they wanted to go with someone that they trusted, someone that wasn't going to be like, can we get a second take of this? You can't get that. And that's what I love about the shooting of paranormal is you can't get a second take. Whatever you get is what you get. And you either get it or you don't. I mean, I've been to locations with the crew and shot some stuff and came back with nothing. And they're like, is this going to be a movie? No, we didn't get nothing. I mean, if you don't get nothing, you don't get nothing. But when you do go out and you get something, that's when you come on podcast. That's when you release the film and, you try to generate people's interest in it. And I'm just hoping that there's a market for authentic paranormal documentaries where people are actually investigating.
Yep. Getting a little bit off the subject, you know how reality TV really got started?
Kardashian?
No, well, actually, it was because of the writer's strike, and they were trying to find a lot easier and cheaper ways of making content. And you think about it, you do reality TV, you don't have writers on that show. It's how you react to it. And you can fact check me on it. If I'm wrong, I apologize, but that's what I was understood was that's how it all got started. And I've done a pilot for a show, and I know the process of it. And I mean, unfortunately, it wasn't good enough to make it on TV, but your chemistry with the director has a lot to do with this success too. The guy we had, he was one of the best in the business. He did what's that home improvement show that moved that bus, whatever. Didn't really watch it that much.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. I can't think of the name of it.
But I mean, he was there and he wasn't letting us be ourselves. And I told him, my buddy, I said, that is where this is going to go wrong. It's just not, it doesn't feel natural, and they're not letting us be us. It's not going to work. And lo and behold, it didn't work.
Yeah, you can't. And that's the thing about paranormal production is, when we're filming a regular movie, I say action and then the action starts. It doesn't work that way. but you have a lot of people that think that it does. And I get it. When you have a crew, when you have investigators, when you have production going on, money is being spent.
Hmm.
And when you create a product, you have to recoup that money if you want to continue making films, and you hope to earn, a profit off of it. But if you're going to be authentic, you have to factor in the budget that sometimes you're going to go out and you're not going to get what enough evidence that it's going to warrant a movie.
Unfortunately, with the paranormal world, when you have that money involved, and it really affects the integrity of it all. I'm sorry, it does. So, being that you're doing documentary films and you're not under that restraint of television, and oh yeah, I have to have X amount of viewers to get, better advertising, yada yada yada. I mean, that's a whole different world, but you're hit, it's kind of hit and miss there with the documentaries. It's either gonna make it or it's not. So
Yeah.
I hope it does. I'm anxious to see it myself.
Yeah. I kind of, I'm going to release these. I have two, possibly three more that I'm going to do of like these. This one with Kane. And then I have three others that's in various stages of production. Um, just because it's financially makes more sense to do them as a group, because I have a unique way of doing things, not the Hollywood way of doing things.
Good.
And I think now's the time for something new. And unfortunately, when people look at a lot of, like you said, a lot of people are competing in their mind for a TV show, but they don't realize there's only so many TV shows that are ever going to be produced. And the chances of getting one and having longevity on it, like a Ghost Adventures or Ghost Hunters, is slim. I mean, the chances of even getting a movie produced, like it took a year and a half to get this one, all the pieces of the puzzle put together, and to make it work and get to a level to where it could be put out there. And I just hope, and I want, everybody listening, that if you want something that is not influenced by a production company with an agenda, and you want to watch people going out and investigating and not trying to have an agenda of convincing you that something, this or that or the other, is going on. We just go out and collect the evidence, and you, as the viewer that viewed the movie, you're free to decide what happens. The only thing I can guarantee you is what we capture on film is what we captured on film, and what we capture on film is authentic to the moment that was there. And when I go back and post, and we're working with the editing team and we're editing, if I heard it, then we can conclude it's a footstep, then that don't make the cut. And what we put in there is what I think is something. I mean, am I going to sit here and say that every single thing is a ghost? No, but every single thing in there has baffled the crap out of me. And I hope some people could explain some of this stuff, because the way I do things is kind of different than other people, in the fact that I use different pieces of equipment at the same time. So when you have different pieces of equipment communicating with you with the same message at the same time, that's
it's hard to refute that. And I'm gonna throw that word integrity out there again. As long as people like you are doing it, and you're doing it the right way for the right reasons, you're not Hollywooding it up, I will support you. I will push it as much as possible. And the day that I see that it's not, that's when I walk away, which is why some of the shows that are on television, when I can most people that really pay attention, they can tell what's faked and what's not. I will not support it. Now, sometimes I watch some of those shows just to laugh because of the stupid things they do. But I will definitely push your movie.
I
I want to check it out for sure first before we put the official endorsement on it.
yeah.
And I mean, not like I have a bunch of pull or anything,
Nah,
but
but I appreciate everybody because it's one of those things you sit here and you see the things that are on TV, and then as a viewer and then as a filmmaker, I'm like, okay, I know. I'll just throw the name out there, like Destination Fear.
mhm.
As a producer, I watched that and I like some of that style of filmmaking. I like the angles. I like some of the drone shots. But then when you start looking at the cuts and the edit, you're like, damn, they got like 17 people there.
Mhm.
And when you're trying to walk down a hallway, a wood floor hallway with 12 people, because you got four camera, like some of these shows like that's got four camera people. It, I find that hard to collect anything.
Oh yeah, it is. I've been on events where there'll be 20, 30, even more people there. And when you're trying to do something and you got people constantly talking and walking around and banging stuff around, you just might as well throw any kind of evidence you have out the window. It's just, it's nearly impossible to have a group that size. I have a question for you, real quick.
Okay.
I know for myself, I went to the Yorktown Hospital, and we already had ourselves worked up before we got there. So every little thing would just kind of throw me off guard, and I'd get startled pretty good. And we knew that this mannequin was in this one corner. But I swear, every time I walked by, it made me jump. Did you get that kind of worked up when you were at those locations?
I had an incident that I'm not proud of that didn't make the cut of the movie, but I'm probably going to put it in a special feature or just release it. We were in the kitchen, and Kane is the type, like, he's a tough guy. I mean, this guy's jumped off buildings. He's a Hollywood stunt guy.
Right.
And he come across, like, I don't know if people have read his book, but if you get a chance, read his book. At a young age, when he first got started in stunts, he said he was attempting a stunt where he was setting himself on fire,
Mm-hmm.
and he suffered a very serious fire injury.
Oh.
And he still has the scars on him to this day. And I totally respect him for battling through and recovering for that and going on to becoming a Hollywood stuntman and keeping with it, because I mean, that's just, anyone that knows anyone or ever seen anyone with a burn injury, that's just that's a heck of an injury to come back from. And so in my opinion of Kane, forget the Jason stuff, just him as a person, he is a tough guy. Me, on the other hand, my fight or flight, it'll kick in. When I was young and I was in the Marines and they say go, I go. But we're in the kitchen investigating, and I'm trying to get what's going on because it's active. Kane's calm, cool, and collect. I can't use this really in the movie because the cameraman got spooked and we didn't get it on camera. Which is another challenge of producing paranormal stuff, is because you need camera people that actually get it when, because you hate just having one angle where it's a static cam. But anyway, I'm standing by this table and another lady's standing on the other side, and I'm looking at her, and there is a metal table, and there is a bam on that table. No one hit that table because only me and her could touch that table.
Mm-hmm.
I ran. I ran so fast, and the look on Kane's eyes when I ran was like, "How did this big guy, move that quick?" You
Oh my
know,
God.
because my thing is this: is I can fight a person. If we're filming and somebody busts on set and they're like, "Hey, I'm going to fight you guys and I'm going to rob you and take all your cameras," I'm like, "Hey, I'm going to defend myself. I don't want no trouble. I ain't gonna start no trouble." But when something jumps on a metal table that I can't see, that means I can't grab it. So I'm gonna run. I ain't even gonna try to play the tough guy.
You know, that the dumbest thing about the whole mannequin thing was how many times I jumped. And I mean, that was dumb. But when I lived in LaPorte, Texas, I lived in a condo, and there was always something happening in that house. One morning I woke up and my lazy boy was completely upside down, and my grandfather clock was laid on its side, and all these different things were going on. And the one thing that freaked me out, I'm sitting in the room, and we have a little closet where you put the towels and stuff. And all of a sudden that door started doing this number, and you could hear it slamming, and kept hitting and kept hitting. And I was like at total alert mode this at this point. And I'm watching, and I'm kind of freaking out a little bit. My heart's racing, and I'm like, oh my God. But the curiosity part of me, I had to go check it out. I open it up, and my stupid cat's in there scratching his ear and hitting the door and making it do that. I felt so stupid after that. You get yourself worked up, and all kinds of things will make you jump.
One of the producers on this film, buddy of mine I've known for 20 years that I've worked on numerous projects with. He a very good friend of mine. After Boston, he's like, "I will never go to another paranormal haunted location again." And I'm like, "Come on, man." I was like, "What if somebody," he's like, "I don't care how much money they offer. I don't care if you get a TV show. I'm not going." And I was like, "Now I know we got a good haunted location when you got people that's known you and worked with you for 20 years that refuses to help you out and go." He's like, "I help you from the computer. I help you from at home, but I ain't setting foot on another property." He he went with me when we location scouted. And we said, "Okay, we're gonna go around." And one of the things I like to do is I like to leave the obelisk on.
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, when it speaks is just as important when it don't speak. So like if you walk around and it never says nothing, then that tells me something. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I mean, I don't know what it's telling me, but I mean, I'm just like, okay, I'm just trying to rationalize and see the lay of the land. We go back down, and it was weird. We walked around because it's 3 floors. We walked around the third floor. The obelisk didn't speak. We
Mm-hmm.
walked down to stairs to the second floor, and Ovulus spit it out like 15 words at one time. And it would, and the feeling, and it's weird because you watch on TV, and I reference the TV because I know a lot of people watch it, and that's how I watched it. And you're like, you hear people, "Oh, it feels this way in here," and then I remember back to the military, like when you're a young rambunctious Marine and you're in a bar and there's getting ready to be a bar fight, and you can kind of feel that.
Mm-hmm.
You could feel the tension in there. Same thing when you're overseas. I was in Liberia and Bosnia. Um, you could feel when something violent, something hectic is getting ready to transpire. I can't explain it, but you could feel it. We used to joke and be like, "Oh, that's my spidey senses." And this is almost the same thing in the paranormal. It's like when you go to a location, and I'm not saying I'm have any special abilities or anything. I'm just saying it's just you can feel something's in there with you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's to me, it's very unsettling, you know, because
Yeah.
you don't know what's in there. I mean, I see people say I think this is the ghost of an 8-year-old child, or I think this is the demon, or I think this, that, but you don't know what you're opening that door to.
Exactly.
It could be a 40-year-old man sitting there joking with you, telling you that it's an 8-year-old child, or it could be some demon, or it could be an 8-year-old child telling you it's a demon. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah. Well, those demons are very deceptive. They will appear as something innocent to you, but could be just the most evilest thing you've ever encountered in your life. What is the name of your film, by the way?
it's Balsam, a paranormal investigation. Um, and it stars Kane Hodder. It comes to DVD and VOD. It'll be on Amazon and all the VOD sites where people can rent it on December the 14th.
December the 14th.
Yep. And they can pre-order the DVD now on Amazon, and it'll show up on 12/14. I encourage people to pre-order to get the DVD pre-ordered. It's on sale for $13.99 right now, because I'm loading it down with the special features of the evidence that didn't quite fit into the documentary.
Okay.
I couldn't quite, it's stuff on there that I didn't quite know what it was. So I was like, I'm just going to put it in the special features and let people just watch it.
Decide for yourself.
They might look at it and say, hey, that looks like a dust bunny, or they might look at it and say, that looks like an orb. I couldn't tell. So to me, as a filmmaker, that's a special feature item, because you put it out there, and if I could tell something, like, of course, when you walk into a room and there's dust all over the place, I discount anything I film in there as ever being an orb. But when you go into a room and someone says, if you're here, show me you're here, and then they walk out, and 2 minutes later, an orb comes across the camera that's left in the room, that was just like a static camera that was left on. That causes me to question things. And to me, that's what this is all about, is like, it seems like the more I do it, the more questions it generates than answers.
Of course. It's going to be a scientific field that ends up getting taught. That's what I believe, because there's newer equipment that's coming out that's more reliable. I know Brandon Alvis has, I believe it's a photon type camera, and there's you can't deny the things that he picks up on it, because you couldn't fake it on that camera. I think he featured it in one or two of the episodes of I think the last season of Ghost Hunters, and I'm not sure if he's going to try to bring that out on film again. I hope he does. That you really should check it out. It's fascinating. Just the science behind it alone is fascinating. But unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap things up. Is there any possible way that you could send me the link to the DVD so I can post it in the description?
Absolutely. I'll send that over to you. And I'll make sure you got the link for the trailer and everything.
Okay. I would like to share that trailer in the video if that's possible.
Absolutely. I would be honored. And I appreciate everybody, watching and listening. And I just hope you guys in the paranormal community take a look at this thing, and let me know what you think of the evidence we got. If it's a dust bunny, let me know. If it's something else, let me know. I mean, that's what this is all about. I want to go out, capture some stuff, and I'm not with a paranormal team. I'm not with a certain thing. I work with a lot of different people, and hopefully one day me and you can work together, because I just came out to Texas, and I found Texas to be very interesting. So I definitely want to go back.
We are our own country, let me tell you. Well, if everybody will stay tuned after the video is over, I will include the trailer so everybody can check it out. I would recommend that you at least check it out for yourself, see what you think. If you like it, then recommend it to your friends. Get it out there. I think we should push things that are authentic and have integrity to it. Yeah, I'm throwing that word out there again, because this is important to all of us that are in the field. We're trying to prove something that has, people have been skeptical about forever, but there's got to be some truth behind it. I've seen some pretty incredible things. Let's just prove that that's exactly what we're seeing. How can people follow you? Do you have social media that they can go to?
I just started a website called Paranormal 13.
Okay.
They could go to paranormal13.com. It has all the info up there. It's just where it's me and other group of paranormal enthusiasts. If anyone that writes or likes to write wants to submit a story, they can submit a story on there. It's where we just publish it, kind of a space where anybody that's authentic can publish information, and we can share it and kind of put different eyes on it, and fellowship and report what's going on, because there's a lot of wonderful people out there doing a lot of wonderful things, and they're not all on the Discovery Channel.
Exactly. Some of those folks that you don't really hear from end up having some of the best stuff. It's all because of, who basically. But so do you have like a link tree or something, or is everything on the website?
Everything's on the website. I'll send that over to you too.
Okay.
I don't do a lot of social media because it can eat up a lot of time.
It's a distraction.
Yeah.
And some of it's not positive anyway. So you need to keep that out of your life. I mean, it's a good tool if you use it the right way, but at the same time, it could be detrimental to your mental health.
Yep. I agree. But I appreciate you having me on, Kyle.
Of course, man. Thank you for your time. And anybody that's out there that's watching or listening to us, this is your first time. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you'll come back, and please subscribe to the channel. That takes 2 seconds and it's a big help. We're trying to do some incredible things here, and we need your help to do it. And that's how you can recommend us, share it out, hit that notification bell, interact with us. If there's something you like, let us know. If there's something you don't like, let us know that too. And for those of you that are, you've been watching us from the beginning, thank you for your support. I really, really appreciate it. And we're going to leave it at that. Take care, Tony. To everyone out there, have a wonderful day. God bless and peace.
Since I was a kid, I was always fascinated by the possibility of there being what we called ghosts. I mean, I make a living trying to scare people, so it's kind of fun for me to be uncomfortable.
Po boy.